I'd like to welcome everyone to the special meeting for September for the Community High School District 94 Board of Education. Mission statement, please.
Community High School strives to promote and provide growth experiences in learning, living, and leadership.
Thank you, Rich. Roll call, please.
Member Zuniga?
Here.
Casey Mayer?
Here.
Brown?
Here.
Nagel?
Present.
Munoz?
Here.
DeRamos?
Present via phone for health reasons.
Sake?
Present, do on the phone, but due to health reasons.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to public participation. This is the portion of our meeting where any member of the public can address the Board of Education on any topic. We welcome your comments and will carefully listen to your concerns. We will not be able to engage in a dialogue during public participation, but when appropriate, we will direct the administration to follow up. Presentations are limited to no more than 5 minutes per person, with a total time limit of 30 minutes for public participation. If you wish to make personal charges or complaints against individual employees, volunteers, or students of the district, we request that you send the board your concerns in writing rather than stating those concerns during public comment. If anyone currently present wishes to make public comment and hasn't already done so, please fill out one of the comment forms in the back of the room and hand it to someone seated at the table. So I've received no comment forms. Does anybody here wish to make public comment? Hearing none, we will move into our executive search firm interviews, starting with the Illinois Association of School Boards.
I know that they've made copies for you of what we sent from all of the firms. This has some additional information in it, so we're going to give you these folders.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I'm going to leave these actually.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for the opportunity. Obviously, it's a big decision, and we appreciate the time and thought that you're putting into this. We'll start with introductions briefly because we know we're on limited time. My name is Patricia Vineyard. I'm in my 5th year with IASB, the executive search team. I'm in my 42nd year as an educator. I've been a teacher, a principal, a literacy interventionist, an assistant superintendent, and a superintendent. I've been a high school teacher and a high school administrator and a high school assistant superintendent by way of background. I'll let Al introduce himself.
Thanks, Dr. Vineyard. Hi, good evening. Thanks for having us. My name's Al Mulvey, and I'm with the School Board Association as well. This is my 9th year working with IASB in executive searches. I'm a retired superintendent. I was superintendent in suburban Cook County in Hillside Elementary School District. I was there for 15 years as superintendent. I'd been principal there before that for 5. I had been assistant superintendent in the Franklin Park area around O'Hare, Manheim School District. I was assistant there for 10 years, and I'd been a teacher for that. Retired 9 years ago, as I said. I've been working with IASB ever since, working primarily in the suburban area, working with districts and doing superintendent searches as well. Other executive searches, which are material there, we'll also allude to. Thank you.
Thanks, Al. I'll let Al start. When we do a PowerPoint, our first few slides are just a little bit about who we are, what makes us stand apart from the others, how we recruit and advertise, and then I'll do a real brief summary of walking through our services and cost.
Thanks, Trish. As you know, we are your association, and as a member of the association, we have a variety of different things that we offer to you, but one of the services that we provide to districts who are members is the Executive Search Department. We're one of probably 4 or 5 other departments that make up the School Board Association and service all the districts in Illinois. In the Executive Search Division, our job is to work with boards, work with school districts in conducting searches for primarily superintendents. We've been doing it for over 60 years. We've been doing it longer than any of the for-profit firms. We also do more searches for school boards in the state of Illinois than any of the for-profit firms as well. There's probably about 100 to 120 superintendent turnovers in the state every year, and we do about 1/4 of those, 20 to 25 searches each year. And we are the market leader in this. We only service districts in Illinois. However, we attract candidates from all across the country. We have a very wide network. We work very closely with an association called the National Affiliation of Superintendent Searchers. There's a flyer in your folder on the left side about that. That's a nationwide organization that does with states, representatives that do the same things that we do. And so I think there's like 40 out of the 50 states that are a member of NAS, and it's a very strong network of not only sharing best practice, but also sharing vacancies. And so when we work with the district and promote your vacancy, we have a very strong network of places with which we advertise and promote it and are able to attract very quality candidates and a very large pool of candidates. We also find that when administrators from other parts of the country are looking to relocate to Illinois, especially in the suburban area, the first place they look for vacancies is on our website. And our website, the IASB website's linked to IASA, School Administrator's website, as far as job vacancies. And so we have kind of a first look for these potential candidates from other states that are looking to relocate to Illinois. So even though we only service districts in Illinois, and there's 850 districts that we work with, we do attract candidates from all across the country. And like I said, we've been doing it longer than any of the for-profit firms. And we have a department, and there's a flyer on the left side of your folder for that shows our executive search department. We have 7 people who work together. We have an office in Springfield, obviously, and we have an office in Lombard that Dr. Vineyard and I work out of primarily. But all of our consultants work together on searches, and we work as a team. When we start to work with you, which we hope that we will be doing, Trish and I will be your consultants, and we'll work together on everything. We might also include another consultant for some additional eyes on the applications in the application process and reading through, because there will be a very strong and deep pool for your superintendency. We're very confident of that. And so, but we together work as a team, and we also have other consultants who we work with as well. So.
Thank you. Thank you, Al. So just to talk a little bit, and I'm sure that you've looked over the information that we sent. And I will say the other day we were part of some presentations and we went fourth instead of first. And so one thing that I noticed was just commonalities among all of the firms. You are going to hear robust stakeholder involvement. We do that. We do a virtual aspect, which is the survey. We can give that in other languages. I think we are up to 16 languages so far besides English that we have administered it in. We also would do an in-person focus group. And again, we would utilize translators if we needed those to be in languages other than English. We tend to utilize your translators because they know your families. So there's that piece up front where after we've sort of finalized that you would, like to work with us, which we would be honored and privileged to do, and I think you would be extremely happy with working with Al and me and IASB, our entire team, and the reputation behind us. So one of the first things we need to do is determine the profile. Really, what are you looking for? Of course, you want a strong administrator, but there are going to be some specific things you need that's unique to your district, and that's where the surveys and the focus groups come in. From there, we develop an announcement of vacancy that shares information about your district. There is a sample announcement of vacancy in the folder that we gave you tonight. It's for another high school district, a search that we did this past year. You can look at that later. It gives you an idea of what our announcement of vacancy looks like. We then broadly advertise, so we've had some robust stakeholder piece up front to help you, the board, say what are we really looking for. We advertise, we collect and analyze those applications, we vet them, we check licensure, we check references, we talk to folks who have supervised them. We then, and as Al said, I would echo that we believe there would be a very, very strong pool of candidates, given your district, the reputation, and the location. We would take all of those applications, Our team would analyze them and winnow that down to a smaller pool, probably 12 to 15. We would conduct screening interviews of those folks, and we would screen them through the eyes of what you are looking for, what specifically were the kinds of skills and expertise you're looking for. We would then, after checking references and those screening interviews, we would then further narrow that down to what we call the slate of candidates that we would bring to you. The slate is typically about 6 candidates. Could be a little more, could be a little less, would depend on internal candidates, some other factors, but we would talk with you about that. So approximately 6 candidates. We then would help you set up the interviews. We do training for the board to make sure you're fully prepared and comfortable for the first round interviews and the second round interviews. At a board meeting in closed session, we would do some training that would involve protocols, questions, do's, don'ts, schedules. It's at the meeting where we present the candidates typically. We make sure you're fully prepared for the interviews. I'm sort of speaking from in the folder, and you had it in what was duplicated. There's the summary in chronological order of what we do. And you'll notice there are components that we do for all searches that are called part of the standard search, but no 2 districts have the same timeline, have the same needs, have the same budget, have the same circumstances. So that's why we offer some pieces optional. And you saw that the optional pieces we were recommending were the upfront focus groups, as well as when the board gets to the point where they've narrowed it down to semifinalists. It's typically 2 candidates. We can help and we will facilitate a stakeholder group. So again, this would be more toward the end of the process. The focus groups is at the beginning of the process. What are we looking for? What shape are we in? What are points of pride? What are needs for the next 2 to 5 years? Toward the end of the process, after the board has interviewed and narrowed the pool down to its 2 semifinalists, we would help facilitate. It's something we would recommend, but again, it's up to the board. You would not have to select that option, to facilitate a group of stakeholders to meet with those semifinalists. We have a very, very well-refined process that involves some training with those folks. They sign up ahead of time. They submit questions ahead of time. We synthesize code and vet those, and then it works very well. What it amounts to is additional piece of feedback for the board as they're making this critical decision. And those stakeholders know that they are not making the decision, and that's part of the training and the orientation, but they understand where their feedback fits into the entire picture. There's some other optional pieces there. We can do practice interview training, a mock interview training for the board. Very few boards choose that, I will be honest. But I will also say that the boards who would like to be a little more comfortable with the interview and choose that optional piece love it and say, we are so glad that we did it. It gave us a great deal of comfort. That would be something you'd be interested. We could talk more about that. That's really, in summary, what we do, and I believe what you're going to be hearing from the other firms tonight. A little bit about a couple of things that make us stand out. And first of all would be price. And sometimes people think you get what you pay for. IASB is less and sometimes significantly less than the for-profit firms. Therefore, you must get less of something. Less attention to detail, less attention, less effectiveness, a lesser quality pool, and we can very strongly say that none of those things are true. We are able to offer these services at a lesser cost because we are not for profit and because you are already a member of IASB and you pay dues to IASB. So, for example, we assisted you a bit with the process to secure interims for no cost. That's something that we do as a service to districts that belong to IASB. This is a service and it is not for profit, so we're able to charge less. You can see the standard search would be $9,400. If you opted for the optional pieces that we recommend or that we suggest, again, that would be up to you. You wouldn't have to. It would be an all-in of $12,400. There are no hidden fees. There is no travel or any other kinds of fees associated with that. We do have a guarantee of service and and a guarantee of service, a guarantee and an assurance. That's important to mention. Please give me a signal if I'm getting within a couple of minutes of our time. But here's what they involve. If something unforeseen happens during the search and an aspect of the search needs to be repeated, or the entire search needs to be repeated, or a deadline needs to be altered, we will do that for not one additional penny. The example I often use, it was my first year, or essentially my first full year on the job, and we were at the point where a board was down to the 2 semifinalists, and then it was March of 2020, and everything shut down. And it was fine. We went ahead. We didn't miss a beat. They did their final interviews virtually, and they had a very strong candidate that they liked much over the other one. So let's say it's candidate A, they loved her, they wanted her. Candidate B, they really would not have been happy with. They didn't want to offer that person the superintendency upon the deeper interviews. And because of what was going on, that person candidate A came to me and came to that board and said, when this process started, I was all in, I wanted to come here. My district is now in some disarray and in some stressful chaos, and we're not ready to pivot to the online platform, and I can't leave my district. I have to step away from this search. Nobody could have predicted the pandemic and everything shutting down. So there was an example now where it was April. The candidate they loved had stepped away. They were not in love with the other one. So we simply pivoted to interims. We helped them secure 2 phenomenal interims for the following school year. We relaunched the search that summer. We redid the complete search for not one additional penny, and they found a superb superintendent. And the other guarantee is that if the person whom you hire leaves for any leaves for any reason within the first year, you didn't care for them, they didn't care for you, or their spouse got a dream job in New Zealand and they're just going to go live their best life. For any reason, if they leave within a year, and we've gone a little over that year, we will redo the search for no additional cost. We have
We're getting a little close if we want to leave some time for questions.
Thank you. I'm going to stop there actually and leave time for questions. The only thing I was going to say was we have a very strong retention rate in the 90% of the superintendents we've placed. And in the materials I sent to you, there was a list of districts similar to your district that was on the page that looks like this. If you're wondering, districts that we've served that are similar in size, complexion, and makeup to your district. Questions?
One thing
Please, Al.
about the cost, we have a standard fee scale, and our fees are based on enrollment, and that's what determines those, and that doesn't change. And it's something that, as Dr. Vineyard alluded to, it wouldn't change throughout the course of the search.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
How would you help us to keep our superintendent choice from landing us in the newspaper? You know, you hire a superintendent and then, oh, there's this skeleton in the closet that was on social media or something. How do you help us avoid that?
So, excellent question. Couple of ways, not one specific way. I would say it's a layering of things, and one is very careful checking of their references. However, we go beyond the folks that they've listed as references, because if I've been somewhere and I wasn't successful, but I was friends with Al and we were both whatever assistant superintendents, and I only list him, we let the individuals know that we can, will, and do go beyond the list of references they have listed. So we will want to speak to their direct supervisor in the current and at least the previous district that they were in. So it's if a superintendent doesn't list the board president, or if an assistant superintendent doesn't list the superintendent, we are speaking with them. So we do what we call a limited background inquiry. Because we are not the hiring entity, and because you are, you can and should do a thorough background check. And you'll hear from some of the other search firms what we do, which is we have a third party that we can recommend, one that IASB uses. We get nothing out of it. It's just the one that IASB trusts. So when you get down to your semifinalists, you should do run the social media and all of those things on your 2 semifinalists. You could even do it on the full slate up front, but we help facilitate that because we know that that's important to have happen. And, again, our members are located, if you're talking about an Illinois superintendent, and by and large, we have a number of out-of-state people who apply, and there are times when out-of-state people will get jobs, particularly in the suburbs. But we do have our NAS network that Al alluded to, the National Affiliation of Superintendent Searchers. There are people in other states who do what we do who know these folks. Because in Illinois, we either know them or we know someone who knows them well, superintendents, and we know their successes and we know their issues. By and large, we really know the Illinois soups. Our colleagues in other states know them as well. We can call our colleagues in Oklahoma or in Michigan or in wherever, Texas, and say, hey, this person's applied. I need to know the skinny on them.
Thank you.
That seems to contradict your step 6, which, as I read through, I was surprised that you call it a limited background check. From previous experience, I know deep background check is really the key to knowing what you're getting. So I guess some of the other firms have indicated that they do very deep background checks and things like that. How do you reconcile what you're calling limited background check with what you just said, that you do follow up and go deeper? How deep can you go? And
well, we stop short of calling it a full background check because that implies we've utilized a company for a fee, someone that can do in seconds or hours what it would take us a long time to do. And if we Googled, we could come up with someone with the same name that's not the same person. So that's why we call it a limited background inquiry. We are thorough, and we check with our colleagues if it's someone from another state. But we don't call it a full background check. And we recommend, as our legal counsel has recommended, that the hiring entity should run them through the system. And I know that some of the other for-profits say, we have a third party, so you pay for that, but we can help hook you up with a third-party vendor who will do an official background check.
okay, so that's more of a liability on your part of not wanting to give somebody a bad reference that may come back.
No,
to you,
it's actually not for that reason. Our legal counsel, it has to do with a federal law, and I'm sorry that I can't cite it right now, but I can tell you, I could look it up and send it to you, but because of that federal law, our legal counsel, our Office of General Counsel, is very insistent that the hiring entity at this point, and we've pushed back on it a lot. It could change next year or next semester, but right now they are supporting what we do, which is a lot of checking, and providing information for an official firm to, in either way, whether we ran it through or you ran it through, the search firm isn't going to do it. They're going to say, here are some here are some background check firms, pick one of them, or here's one we recommend, we have one we recommend, and how extensive do you want it? Because there's always 100 options. You want social media, do you want financial, do you want, and then, we talk through how extensive you want.
And our legal counsel, which also is legal counsel for all the school boards in the state, in a sense, they've gone so far as to encouraging us in our search process to encourage boards not to Google candidates. Now, we can tell you not to, but we can't stop you from doing it, obviously, and that seems to be one of the more common information gathering processes. But at the same time, it's important that boards know that that's not necessarily always accurate information. So our legal counsel's been very cognizant of the whole process in terms of vetting and so on, and we've worked very closely with them, like Trish was saying, and trying to make sure that we're doing the best we can in the legal way we can as well.
In the interest of time, any other questions from board members?
I do have one follow-on. So your recommendation is that the hiring body, the boards, do the extensive background checking?
Not that they do it, that they are the ones who activate, utilize the service.
Whether it be the one we recommend, or we work with, or
IASB
somebody else.
utilizes People Trail, for example.
And there's information about them in your folder as well.
So,
Okay.
okay.
Just one other, very quickly, service that some of the other private firms talk about is follow-up mentoring for a year or two. And we are very upfront in saying we don't formally offer mentoring to the superintendent after they're hired. We are IASB, we're a school board organization. But the other reason is that IASA, which is the Illinois Association of School Administrators who support superintendents, they provide a mentor. One of our colleagues is an excellent mentor of new superintendents, and it's a 2-year process, and it's regional. And that has very good results and is very well received and recorded. So that is something that we do not offer as follow-up mentoring to the new superintendent, at least not in a formal fashion. Any other questions?
When I was looking through some of your information, you mentioned something about a dashboard document. Is there something that will be in place so that there's transparency with the community as to the whole process?
Yes, there is. We have a dashboard document. We obviously don't share it unless we're selected to be working with you, but it provides all of the major steps. There's 3 or 4 columns. The major step in order, the purpose of that step, and the outcome of that step, along with dates. And that is something that we would provide that you would want to put on your district website. Yes. Thank you for mentioning that.
That is easy, user-friendly, and that would be provided in.
It is provided and it
Other
is
languages.
user-friendly. The template is created, and really all you would need to do is insert some dates, district representative, insert some dates, insert a hyperlink. For example, it will say survey, upfront survey, here's the purpose of the survey, and here was the outcome. The outcome was a report was given to the board. Well, then you could do a hyperlink to the report. Thanks for asking.
Any other questions?
Anything else?
All right, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks
We
so
really
much.
appreciate
All the
it.
best. I know regardless of who you pick, you will have excellent candidates. Thank you for your time and attention to this.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good night.
You.
Thank you.
Are they ready?
Yeah, Tilla's getting the next group,
Excellent.
so we're running right on schedule.
Good deal. That could be fun. I'm sure we can arrange for some music, right?
Fine, we'll sing.
All right. If we had known, we would have entertained you in between sets.
Oh,
I'm sure you guys will do great.
Do some stand-up improv. We can do this. Oh, the other firms? Yes. Yes, the second firm is already here. They're just being brought in. They're working on it right now. Our superintendents are working on bringing them in right now. We're just a little ahead of schedule because, we had to allow for the possibility of public comment, which there wasn't any, so that got us a jump on getting started with the School Board Association.
I bet you couldn't believe that we didn't have.
You never know. You never know.
Gary and Catherine, you still there?
Yes, you are. I am.
I am also.
Just checking.
Volleyball game's going.
what was going over in the football field?
Was there something in the football field too?
Soccer game.
Oh, okay. I know there was volleyball going on in the gym, but. How about that football game last Friday? That was exciting,
It
huh?
was a good game. It was a good game.
Where were they playing?
Bartlett.
Bartlett.
I think that we beat him.
Pardon me?
Was the first time that we beat him? Or?
Well, I think they didn't do well the last time they played Bartlett, so it was good to be. Maybe it's the start of something good.
Yeah, the Chicago Bears, do the camps out here.
Oh,
so,
yeah,
you know.
that did
Oh,
it.
so that was the extra push over the hill.
Yeah.
I mean, we should just fire up the projector and look at pictures from Giovanni's vacation trip.
That works for me.
I'm sure you got some good ones.
Oh, yeah. I found out that that moose drop their horns every year. I didn't know that.
That is kind of cool, isn't it?
I didn't know that,
Isn't
yeah.
that amazing? Because they're so huge. Yeah.
Did you see a lot of moose when you were out?
Saw one that was just going like on a swim, like just swimming through like a giant like pond, and he was like going under, like eating the water lilies. It's pretty cool.
They are bigger than you think they are. They are gigantic. Don't mess with them.
They're fast. I hear they're fast.
Yeah, they are fast.
Especially not during mating season. You stay away. Welcome.
Thank you.
From a technical standpoint, do I need to push the button to speak, or?
No, it'll pick up when you speak.
All right. All right.
It's interesting being on this side.
We're usually on that side. Any lead in or just
Just go ahead. You guys are
Will it?
School Exec
Okay.
Connect, so take it away.
Well, wanted to thank you for having us out. Thank you for considering School Exec Connect as we share with you a little bit about what makes our firm, and more specifically, the two of us, different than some of the other firms that you may have seen tonight or will see tonight. I'm Dave Pelzet. I am currently a superintendent. We're going to get into introductions here in a second.
And I'm Terry Bresnahan, also a current superintendent. Do you have, can I just ask, we have our, the actual, I see you have the proposal, and then do you also have the presentation format?
Do you have the PowerPoint?
Excellent. We'll be walking through that
Great.
one.
So if it's okay with you, we're just going to kind of walk through the presentation with you through paper. So we're on the second page that has the mission statement. And the reason that we chose to start with the mission statement, we also know that you start each board meeting with reciting the mission statement. Clearly, that's something that's important to you. And you want to find a leader that reflects those same values, right? That is looking for, you want someone who is going to help your students to learn, lead, and live the best life that they can live, right? And as a board, help you to do those things as well. As I mentioned, both Terry and I have spent a lot of time getting to know your district as best we can online and watching videos and watching board meetings and things like that. We fully understand that this is a district that needs to do some healing. You need a leader that's going to come in and is going to be a listener and a consoler, and is going to be able to listen to what people have to say, take that feedback, and turn it into action for your community. We believe that you really have an opportunity here because you have a community that is telling you what they want. They are very, very clear with what they want and what they want to see in their next leader. And we believe that we can help you to do that. But we think it's important to, right from the onset, to talk about the fact that one of the things that is different for the two of us than some of the other consultants that you may have seen is that we are able to empathize with sitting on that side of the table right now. We're currently sitting superintendents who are able to understand the intricacies of being on that side of the table during this time period.
Yes, and I think thinking about that community alignment and the values that your community has spoken to, and working with you as sitting superintendents to know that finding that right partner in the work is really the essential piece to fit that team. It's not just a team of 7 as a board, it's really a team of 8. And finding that ideal candidate is something that, I think Dave and I have a lot of experience in working in this field and having a network and being able to help you find that right partner for your community.
If you flip to the next page, you have our mug shots, so to speak, there. I've been a superintendent for 9 years. Actually, I think both of us have been.
Yes,
We came in at the same time for 9 years. I've worked in school administration for 20 in varied communities. My dissertation was looking at high-performing schools where students may come from high-poverty homes, and that has really led the work that I've done as a superintendent.
Yes, and I'm also currently in my 9th year as a superintendent, and I most recently, this is year 3 actually, so 2 years ago, I went through working with School Exec Connect as a candidate and was placed in the current district where I am. So I have very recent experience being a candidate through this process and can attest really to the thoroughness and having that empathy for both the board and for the candidate themselves. I serve in a very diverse community and know that alignment of values between your board, your community, and your superintendent is really important.
The other piece, kind of logistical piece that I'll share, both Terry and I are on the board of the Suburban Superintendents Association. We have, access to superintendents from pretty much everybody north of I-80, so northern Illinois. We're both members of the Illinois Association of School Administrators and are very active in our local county areas. We are ISAL, which is another kind of unique elite group of superintendents that we're a part of. We both have national connections as well. I was a part of the National Superintendent's Certificate Program, and Terry also does some work at the national level as well. So again, we have access to a very broad range of leaders that we feel could be a good fit for your need and what you're looking for. All right,
And just to set the timing, say, based on when you started, at 7:46, let's go into questions.
Perfect. So we have a lot of technical things that we know are answered in the proposal that you received. So we'll kind of go swiftly through the technical aspects and hopefully highlight some of the things that sets us apart.
So we're on the finding the right leader slide. Again, what we tried to do here is show not only that we've done 600 searches over the course of the last several years. However, we tried to break it down and show how many searches that we've done in the last 5 school years. So again, I won't go into a ton of detail. We can tell what was happening in 2021 with COVID and lots of leadership changeovers there. Again, to be cognizant of the time, flipping over to the next slide, the by the numbers slide. Again, a 97% success rate, which means of the searches we've done, 97% of the boards have felt that they that they had the right leader, and it led to a second and even a third contract. 100% of those searches are done on time and on budget. Again, lots and lots of searches completed, and then we have a stable, when you hire School Exec Connect, you're not just hiring the 2 of us, but you're hiring all 60 of those consultants that we can network with and work through to find the right leader for you.
So the next slide really talks about the timeline. It gives you an overview, which is pretty on pace with what you would expect from a search, so getting this started now, but really looking to partner with you and guide you through every step of the process, really allowing you to customize the portions that you want so that you get to the desired results. Looking at the next piece just gives an overview of that focused process. So we really are with you from start to finish, and customizing, again, based on the input that you get as a board give us, input and feedback from focus groups as well. It really is a full service delivery model. And then Dave's going to take you through kind of the specifics of each of the steps of the process.
So on the next 3 slides, it's a 12-step process, which trying to put it on one slide was just way too much. So we're going to start by planning, having a planning meeting with you all and the 2 of us, where we'll figure out the timeline, we'll figure out the process, we'll talk about who exactly do you want to be part of the focus groups in that community engagement piece. We'll then move into that community engagement piece where we'll conduct focus groups, we'll do surveys, we'll get some data on what your community is looking for. We also have the unique ability to run focus groups in Spanish if that's something that you feel would be helpful for your community. Once we've compiled a new superintendent profile, we'll bring that to the board, where the board would approve that in a public board meeting. And then we start doing our work. We start hitting the pavement and finding the right candidate for you. We would bring a slate of 6 candidates, 5 to 6 candidates to you to do a board interview. We would do a workshop with you if that's what you desired on interview practices, what you can and can't say, how to ask the questions that are going to get you the answers that you want. Once we've kind of had your first board interviews, we've narrowed those 6 candidates down to 3. We'll have some committee interviews if that's the direction that you choose to go. So we can have members of your staff, we can have the board, we can have parents who are part of that process, that interview process as well. And then there'd be a final board interview as part of that as well. You'll make a decision, we'll name the superintendent, we'll all celebrate and shake hands, and that new superintendent would start July 1.
So in working with all of you, we would really ask that you have a main point of contact from the board group, and then looking at someone within the organization who would be a lead contact. That just really streamlines our communication process and gives you those personalized touch points with those designated reps. And then you will have both Dave and I as dedicated reps. This is the only search that we do, and we would really dedicate that time outside of our own day-to-day responsibilities, but we have that dedicated time to serve for this search. looking at that guaranteed success and satisfaction. So I think really what sets us apart is that customized experience and really being able to work with candidates and help them through the process as well, so that we can ensure we know what you want as well as what they are willing to serve in as well. It's not a one-size-fits-all, so everything that you see here can really be customized based on the feedback you provide to us. And as a search firm, we stand behind our commitment to your success and hopefully welcoming another colleague for Dave and I.
Absolutely. So the last slide, do I have?
If you finish up quickly,
Sure.
and then we'll get to questions. Yes.
The second to last slide here, associated costs, really just is in the proposal. The one piece, the advertising and transition support, if you wanted to advertise for AASA, the American Association of School Administrators, there's an additional fee for that. Same thing with Ed Week. We also are well connected with the Illinois Association of Latino Superintendents and Black Superintendents. Those are other areas that we will advertise for you in. And then the last slide, before we get to references, which are again in your packet, we really believe that we can bring a different approach to this and find you the leader that is going to be right for your district and your unique needs. I'm sorry, I went a little bit over there.
That's okay. So one question to start off then, how would you work with us to help keep our superintendent choice from landing us in the newspaper? Because that has happened.
Yeah, it has. And, I think doing your homework on the front end is important. Obviously, reference checks, background checks, and things like that, making sure that we're bringing someone who not only has the technical skills, but the character that you're looking for. We do a thorough reference check, thorough background checks on all of the candidates. And that's one of the nice things about the fact that we are practicing superintendents. We know these people. We know their background. We've gone to school with them. We've been in programs with them. So we're able to also not bring you people in the first place that would land you in the newspaper.
Do you go into like social media, that sort of thing?
Absolutely.
Yes, it is a very thorough process, having gone through it recently myself. And the consultant actually asked me, is there anything that might pop up in this background check that you would rather tell us first than have appear in your background check? So it was a very thorough process. I think I had to give about 25 references that the board took a handful and made all of those phone calls to thoroughly vet the candidates.
So beyond the references that you're given by the candidate, how do you do some additional reference checking for people that aren't going to necessarily give a good reference?
Right. This is a small fraternity that we're in, and we really do know the candidates and those people that they've worked with, and we do our own digging on the back end as well to make sure that we're bringing you the candidates that are going to be the right fit for your community.
And you do that yourselves rather than going through like a third-party
There's
reference checking
definitely that
company?
piece as well. We want the official kind of background check as well, but we also do our own kind of digging on the back end for sure.
Given that you mentioned that you're both actively sitting superintendents, do you have enough time to commit to doing your job, which is superintendent is a big job, as well as helping us through this search, which is also a big job?
I'll speak for myself that this is something actually that my board has given me approval to serve in this capacity because they recognize the value in me as a superintendent and seeing perspectives from this end. I think it makes me a better superintendent as well. We do, if it's during the daytime, we do take personal time, vacation time to be away from our jobs, and anything that's done in the evening obviously is our commitment. We obviously serve our districts and we serve them well, but we are dedicated to this as well, given our timeframes.
Yeah, and I would echo everything that Terry said. In addition to that, I would say that we're not engaged in any other searches. We're not working with any other boards or any other districts on searches. We would be dedicated to you. This would be a focus for us for sure.
Do you provide or help us with some kind of a dashboard for our website so the community can stay up to date with what's happening and where things are?
Absolutely, a detailed timeline that we would provide to you. We would kind of build on the timeline that's in the presentation, and kind of build that out with a little bit more detail for your community. But yes, we would definitely we want your community to know what this process is, and to the extent that the board is comfortable, having them part of that process as well.
Not just a one-time timeline, but some kind of okay, here's where we are now, and this is
With
what happened
updates.
here.
With updates, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
You spoke a little bit about diverse candidates through working with an organization that kind of has access to that pool. Can you tell me a little bit about how that looks?
So we have access to the Illinois Association of Latino School Administrators and the same association for African American administrators. We advertise through their organization. We also are connected. We have probably the most diverse group of consultants working for our firm that I think more so than any other firm in the area, at least. And we're able to tap into them as well for referrals and feedback on candidates as well.
Nobody's born a superintendent. Have you had experience with bringing candidates that were not sitting superintendents, and how you would vet that?
I haven't had firsthand experience. I've looked at others who are joining through the we have aspiring superintendents programs, and I think we absolutely need to consider the best person. So if the board is open to to exploring all candidates based on best fit, I think we would absolutely look at some of those people who have gone through those programs. There's a vast network of aspiring superintendents who are already out there and in the pool waiting for those positions. And I think we have a good network to tap into those candidates as well.
I think we can also look at, when we're looking at assistant superintendents or other high-level administrators, what type of leadership experiences have they had? What have they accomplished within their career? How have they taken some kind of thorny problems and worked through them? How have they been transparent with a community? Those are all questions that we would ask any candidate, but specifically candidates who maybe don't have that superintendent experience.
Questions? All right, I think you've exhausted our questions, but we really appreciate you coming out.
Yes,
Thank
thank
you
you so
very
much for your
much.
time. Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess we're ready for some more improv or something. Anybody heard any good jokes lately?
I can tell you a cute story about something my granddaughter said a while ago.
All right, that'll pass some time.
I was telling my wife that she was going to get ice cube for Christmas. I said, now, ice cube for Christmas? Why is it? Well, my daddy said that if I'm not good, I'm going to get a lump of cold.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. A lump of cold. The other day, a horse walked into a bar and the bartender said, "Why the long face?"
That's classic. I like it. Yeah, you know, people camp out there. They just like they pitch a tent.
I'm gonna fall, I gotta go.
That's what I thought too. But you haven't. I guess. Let me show you. Mountain for 8
A lot
years.
outside, but it was so hot.
He would like, he knew like every crack and crevice, and like, he would go at it sometimes with a rope. Then sometimes he would just climb it without a rope. But he would get up there, and then he was like, no, I'm not
Garden,
even gonna
children's
come
garden
down.
and everything.
It's like, so bizarre then, but like, he did it.
You guys didn't go there though,
Yeah,
did you?
Yeah.
You went,
pushing the button.
Yeah, I went to Yosemite, that was the last one.
And all the adults were like, I wish we could go in there.
So we started, we'll start in the Badlands. Oh, and
that's
then
fun.
my, the car broke
All the
down.
humidity was
Our compressor,
worse
AC
on Monday.
compressor. So we were just driving, Lynn, and then just like the compressor went down, and so like the AC wasn't working. We're literally 3 hours in. We're in Iowa.
Seven.
Compressor broke down, so we had to pull
Figured
over in
I'd-
Iowa and we had to get it
I'd
fixed.
go till
So we're just like, man, this
11
is.
or 12, and after that, I was done.
Go back
We
inside.
did that, and then we went through. We just had to skip South Dakota.
Welcome.
Yellowstone just went.
Hello.
Hello. So as far as time frame wise, once you get started with your presentation, do your presentation for maybe about 10 minutes, and then I'd like to get into some questions.
That's what we planned on.
Sounds good. You may begin whenever you're ready.
Well, thank you very much. I'm Ken Arndt from Hazard, Young, and Atia, and I'm a former superintendent from District 300, Algonquin, Dundee. I also was an interim superintendent for Elgin U46, and then just recently retired as an interim superintendent for District 214 from January to June 2023.
Good evening. Thanks for your time here today. I'm John Perdue, associate with HYA. I too am a former educator and superintendent, a 45-year career, last in DuPage here in Glen Ellen, District 89, 11 years there. Prior to that was 34 years in Bettendorf, Iowa. Most all my career has been around high schools, so it's kind of fun to be back in one of these settings again.
And what we would like to do right now in the next 9 minutes to leave questions for the board is to address the questions that you have given to us earlier. And first and foremost, John and I have done 15 searches over the past 7 years, and 100% of them are still employed. They have never been asked to leave. And so that's why we want to emphasize that the people that we select for your district will stay here. That is one of our primary responsibilities. Our fee of $25,900 is all inclusive. So there's no extra charges, no extra expenses. So what you get is what we will ask for until the search is done. And so there's no extra cost. Again, this is a flat fee. And we will keep working on this job until the job is complete, until you find somebody that you are very willing to have as your next superintendent. We recruit nationwide, but again, the key for this proposal is we need to recruit. Advertising is very, very important, but again, we will use our resources to find the best person for your district. Many districts right now are looking for a superintendent. In fact, probably right now, it is probably the most intense search that you'll ever find. In the past, we would have like 40, 50 persons apply for a job. Right now, it's down to 12 to 15. So you need to be aware of that. But the same token, you are asking for us to do a search a year from now. And that is a major plus. It really is. Max McGee is the president of HYA, and in this month's issue of School Administrator, he emphasizes how the changes have taken place for a superintendent search. Right now, your superintendent that people are looking for needs to be politically savvy. They must have excellent communication skills in terms of verbal and written and social media skills. And they need to also be aware of the political dynamics of the local community. And every community right now is undergoing extreme stress. If you hire HYA, we will work for you 100% of the time. John and I, we have no other jobs right now. We will make this as our first and foremost commitment. We will give you 100% of our attention, 24/7. All the information that we receive, you will receive on a board portal. And so what separates HYA from the rest of the pack? Well, first and foremost, you're looking at the two persons that will be working with you day by day. We want to make sure your successful superintendent is our success also. Likewise, you've heard from our competitors that they customize. Well, we definitely customize, but then I also shared with your interim superintendents an example of what our leadership profile report is like. It's very comprehensive, and the reason for it it's so comprehensive is it helps us find the best match for your district. Likewise, it is a recruiting tool. And so when superintendent candidates are interested in 94, they'll ask, well, what are they looking for? We say, just look at our leadership profile report. It gives you everything that the board, the community, the staff, the students are looking for. Yes, we also provide a dashboard, okay? So we customize that so everybody knows exactly how the search is taking place. So if you're asking us, so how are we familiar with West Chicago? Well, again, I was the interim superintendent for Elgin U46. I think I have a pretty good idea of the complexities that you're going for, and also former superintendent of District 300. Dundee Crown High School, most questionably, is probably very close to West Chicago. So I'm going to turn it over now to John.
Thank you, Ken. Again, you received our proposal, which contains a wealth of information, so we're going to again focus on the questions that you have raised and submitted. So I'm going to run through those a little bit with you here right now. One of your questions dealt with how do we deal with stakeholder input? Extremely important. That's part of the engage phase. I believe it's on page 36 in your agenda materials. We'll start with a planning meeting with you to design the entire search. It's about an hour-and-a-half meeting. We'll ultimately end up spending 4 days in your district or remotely in your district, either one. We will use focus groups. Yes, we'll cast a wide net of individuals who you would like us to speak with. from students to parents to community members to retired citizens, elected officials, whomever you wish. It's your search. We customize it to you. We'll gather all that input from our work with these groups. We'll put it into an executive summary for you that you'll receive called the Leadership Profile Report and Desired Characteristics of a New Leader. This is all input we've received from these stakeholder groups. We also have a survey that's part of the package that we've proposed to you tonight. It's available not only in English, but obviously Spanish and other languages, and that contains input as well from your community. So another output. I like to think of this as a board outreach effort on your part to the community. It's very important how you connect with the community, and we're the bridge to do that for you. We've found a lot of our engagement work has been done best by remote. This is one of the byproducts of COVID, actually, that people in my search work here last year, I did 4 of them last year, people kind of liked coming to a computer screen. They didn't have to come to a location. They didn't have to leave work somewhere, drive somewhere to a location. It was much more convenient for them. So we would probably use that again. If you'd like it to be in person, we'll do that, of course. We ask the same 4 probe questions of every single group that we talk to. What are the strengths of the district? What are the challenges of the district? What are the leader qualities you'd like to see in a new leader? And do you know anyone we should be talking to? Again, the feedback is all rolled into a leadership profile report for you and a list of desired characteristics. If you choose to involve others in the process, you certainly can. Some boards have chosen to do at the final stage, like a meet and greet or a question and answer session with a small group of stakeholder individuals. That's possible to do. We help facilitate that. You talked about methods for coaching the board through the interview for the search process. It's actually starting right now with this presentation. You're learning about the search process and how it works from not only us, but others as well. The planning meeting is especially important to walk you through every single step of the process. Ongoing discussions at meetings and communications with you. We can communicate with you frequently, usually every Friday, trying to send a newsletter to you, individual meetings with you. We are with you, as Ken said, from start to finish. We will not leave you hanging out there. Do we offer superintendent training for the board? Yes, we do, of course. We will provide and work with your new superintendent on a 100-day entry plan, as well as a year of follow-up contact with that individual. Do we provide training to you on the interview process? Absolutely. We will hold an interview workshop with you on questions that you can ask, questions you shouldn't be asking, how does the interview process work and unfold, your body language, all those kinds of things are extremely important. We'll go through all of that. Who does the interview questions? Well, both of us will work with you on that. Usually with the first round interviews that you do, it's about an hour and a half interview we recommend. We have a package of questions, an assortment of questions that we will probably propose to you. Then you can edit from there. What sounds good? You want to add one here? You don't like that question? We'll help navigate that to a package of questions for about an hour and a half. And we help facilitate and schedule those interviews. We don't set in on the interviews. That's what you do. That's your privilege. Round 2 interviews, the second round interviews, we'd like to say that is your set of questions. They're follow-ups from the first interview, and that comes together pretty easily. Again, we help facilitate it with you. Will someone help guide us and working with the focus groups? Yes, was your question on that. And we will typically work with you as well as a contact here in the district, usually the communications person or an administrative assistant to help schedule these focus groups. We have templates for that. We have an entire communications package of invitation letters and communications that can work. Things can be posted on your website. All of that is provided, but we work with your staff to accommodate that. Obviously, we do pre-screen candidates. That would be one primary task of our firm. That's during the recruit stage. You'll see that in your materials as well. We screen potential candidates to the leadership profile report and desired characteristics. We try to match candidates to that. Our online application system for candidates has an ability to pull out qualities from that application that match, and we can customize that to your leadership profile report. We work hard at candidate vetting. This is really important. How we vet a candidate is something we work diligently on. Their past performance of what they've done, their future potential, and the cultural fit for District 94 is all a package in here we work hard on, as well as evaluating the candidates. You actually are part of that too with your interviews that you do as a board. You're doing the same thing. We will present a slate of semifinal candidates of 5 to 7 for you to look at. You'll be able to get all of the application materials through as Ken said, a password-protected portal. Resumes, applications, all that'll be available to you to look at along the way. Then finally, we would give a slate profile of each semifinal candidate to you. Here's why we think this candidate's a good fit. Here are some concerns you might want to probe a little bit about. They're certified, they have a license to do the job, very important. So we go through all of that with you.
We're getting closer to where we should get into questions, so if you could.
Retention rate, we have about 98% of placements across the United States. That includes large districts, LA Unified, San Francisco, places where maybe superintendents don't stay quite as long because of all the political things. So that'll do it.
All right,
Happy to answer questions.
Some
But if you hire
questions.
HYA, you're looking at the two people that are going to be working with, and we have 100% of our success. We've done over 30 searches, and all of our searches are still gainfully employed, or they've retired, or they've moved on to a much larger district. So you're looking at the two people that if you want HYA, that you would be hiring.
Can you easily conduct these focus groups in Spanish?
Yes, so we would work with your staff and with the board to determine exactly what are the focus groups that you wish to have us interview. Again, the questions are always going to be the same, just like John just mentioned. Same questions that we would ask of the board members. And again, this is what provides the leadership profile report that your future superintendent is going to want to know about, and it's going to be a recruiting tool.
Okay, so you mentioned vetting. How will you work with us to help keep our superintendent choice from landing us in the newspaper in a bad way?
You want to try that one?
Because I've read those articles.
It's a tough one right now.
Well, first, superintendent candidates right now, if you go out and Google an individual, good luck on finding someone who isn't going to pop up on Google after the pandemic or during the pandemic. It's just kind of inevitable with what happened across the country. Some have not. Some you may not find in the news, but the pandemic brought a lot of that forward. So in vetting the candidates, if we happen across something that is a concern to us or that the candidate brings forward, one of the last questions we ask in screening them, is there anything about your background that we should know about right now before it lands on the front page of the Daily Herald here in suburban Chicago? Now's the time to tell us. And haven't had that happen too much, but sometimes we have. If there's something of merit there, we're going to ask that candidate to submit a written response that you would receive.
Do you just ask, or do you do some deeper digging to verify?
We do a deeper dive on that as well, yes. And part of your due diligence near the end, if you choose to do it, would be a very deep due diligence dive to verify their degrees, criminal record background check, social media checks and screens, things like that as well.
So Melanie, also, that is a common question that many boards are asking, especially for experienced superintendents, because I would assume that most boards want to have an experienced superintendent instead of a rookie. And so what we ask the board is to sign a confidentiality agreement. And so for the first round, it goes no problem. But then once after that, the name needs to be public, because a lot of the superintendents are also going to be interviewing you if you want to have somebody that's an experienced superintendent. And if it's not a good fit, they do not want to jeopardize their job, as we can all assume. And so that's something that we've learned over the last couple of years, that this is something that we need to carefully analyze, and it works. And we've done that for many, many districts.
How many of your searches wound up having to come back with a second slate?
I haven't had any. We've done collectively 30 searches.
I had one. Academy District 20, Colorado Springs, where the U.S. Air Force Academy is located, 25,000 kids. Had a final candidate. The board fell in love with a person. Person put the house up for sale, came to Colorado Springs, started looking around, and got into contract negotiations and found the candidate felt that the health insurance program wasn't satisfactory enough. Withdrew. So the deputy superintendent got the job.
So to answer your question, we keep on working on this job until the job is done. We don't ask for any more extra compensation, whatever. We work for a flat fee, and we do it until the job is done and you are satisfied.
So your comment about the deputy superintendent answers somewhat my second question. What is your experience or ability to potentially present us with not a sitting superintendent, an aspiring superintendent, I think is.
Well, that's very, very common right now. In fact, that's probably where you're going to find the most brightest aspects, in my opinion. Sitting superintendents, if they're very, very successful, they are not going to want to leave unless they know where they're going to leave. They're going to have a secure pension, which means they're going to be part of the Illinois pension retirement system, or that it's going to be a good fit for them. So that's something that you need to be aware of. The pool is definitely more shallow now than it was 10 years ago. So to give you an example, 10 years ago when I was doing these searches, we would have 30 to 40 applicants. Right now we're down to 12 to 15. And if you have any other competitors of our competitors saying that they can have more, I greatly disagree. Because if you're looking for quality candidates that have experience, the pool is going to be very shallow because of the nature of the politics right now and the economy.
So is that a different process you would go through?
No, it's going to be the same process. So we're going to make sure that whomever we recommend to be on the slate, that is our top 5 or 7, are definitely committed to looking in West Chicago, that want to be here, that have the credentials that you want, and also have the best fit based upon the leadership profile report, which is again based upon the interviews, the focus groups, and the board input that we have. We want to make sure it's a good fit. We don't want to have somebody just to show up with the slate. We want to make sure that the job that you're going to have is going to be difficult to pick who's going to be the top 2, 3, or 1.
I have a question coming from the remote parts of the boardroom. You're talking about a very shallow pool and any qualified candidate being looking at the district and the board. Also, how would you perceive a superintendent who sees a history of a board having very divided votes and differing opinions on many important factors? How would that impact the search?
Well, it might, depending on the individual. Note that any candidate is going to be looking at your website, your board materials, your agendas, how your voting is occurring, your videos of board meetings. They're going to be looking at all of that, especially to watch the interplay among you as board members. So that's a given. If that's an issue here, often we found these search processes start to bring a board together. Honestly, I've had that happen several times. Maybe that's a good thing. But it's probably something you need to talk about with the candidate. And they may bring it up to you. Remember, these candidates are interviewing you as well, every bit as much as you're interviewing them. And they may ask that of you at the end. Tell me about your board voting and why does it occur this way? Someone will have to have an answer.
I'd also like to add, because that kind of ties into it. So the recent issue of AASA, American School Administrators Magazine, has a new realities for landing a superintendency. The leading article is written by Max McGee, who's the president of HYA. And if your interim superintendents can share that with you, it's really enlightening in terms of how superintendent searches have changed and how the dynamics have changed and the realities of politics. So I would recommend, if you could, share that with each other, because that will give you an insight in terms of what you're looking for in the future.
You mentioned within the leadership profile, how one of the aspects that are important in considering is the cultural fit. Can you tell me a little bit about your work or your experience with working within, since the candidate pool is so shallow, pulling from a candidate pool that is diverse?
Certainly. And so in my recent career as a former superintendent, I've looked for persons that are a good fit for Elgin High School, for Elgin U46 as HR, for Wheeling High School. So the question is, we want to make sure the person that we recommend for the board or for the district has a good fit for the community. And I'm not interested, and we're not interested in their philosophy. We're interested more in terms of what are their proven track record. And have they been a good fit? And have they stayed there long enough to show that they have the wares to become or are an effective administrator? So again, we want to have the proven track record, not philosophy.
Any other questions? All right, I think we're out of questions, gentlemen, but thank you very much for coming out.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much. And we look forward, and when can we start?
We'll let you know. We will let you know.
Okay, well, thank you.
You got a busy evening. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
I completely understand. Thank you for your loyalty. Well, we can't formally approve a contract with a search firm until the September regular meeting.
Right, so that would be the earliest that you would do it.
Right, because we'd have to formally vote to approve a contract. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, good evening. How are you all? Good, how are you? Hello. Good to see you.
So when you're ready to begin, if we could do maybe 10 minutes of presentation and then we'll open it up to questions, that would be good. I'm Will, how are you? Good to see you again.
Phil.
That sounds good, thank you.
Well, hello and good evening. I hope you've had a good evening so far. I think we're closing you down, and that's great. We would like to take just a couple seconds to introduce ourselves. We don't want to waste all this precious time with introductions, and then we really want to address the questions that you've posed. You posed quite a few, and then we have a couple of additional pieces of material that we've inserted in those packets that we'd like to share with you also. So let me start by introducing myself. I'm Mark Friedman. I'm the president of BWP and Associates. Started the firm in 2006 and have done probably over the years about 150 searches myself. You know, and I think I say that and I emphasize that is because everybody does. Today we run into people, oh, I did 300 searches, oh, I did 400, I did 5. That's not possible. I know that for true. But I can track down and tell you everything about every one of those, including some that we went after and we didn't get. So 2006 started the firm, have been retired as a superintendent. I was in Libertyville for 17 years. I retired as the state superintendent of the year in 2009, and then took on the role of interim superintendent like these two great gentlemen, and I did 4 of those. So you have quite a few left in your career, and you got to catch up with me. And what one of my favorite colleagues, Glenn Schlichting, says is that we failed in retirement. And so I failed in retirement, kind of got back on the horse a little bit, and did 4 interim jobs. And in the meantime, have been doing searches and not just limited to superintendent, but assistant superintendent, principal, assistant, you name it, in the education domain. So we've expanded our reach quite a bit. So I don't want to waste any more time. Phil?
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Phil Earhart, and I was the former superintendent, retired superintendent from Benjamin 25, so I know your district well. My students went there. And I say that, and I'm very dedicated and committed on helping you find that next best superintendent to lead the district forward. This edition is great. I've not been back since then. I retired in 2019. It's phenomenal. In addition for working with BWP, I became a partner, and I've been working with the firm now for 12 years. I'm also the executive director of the Midwest Suburban Superintendents Association. That's comprised of 8 Midwestern states, and there are 10 superintendents from each of those states by invitation only. And so that's a great network that I have. Secondly, we also have an annual Aspiring Superintendents Conference that we do. So I have a rich pool of candidates I can draw from not just the state of Illinois, but also from the Midwest. As Mark mentioned, we're going to tailor our presentation tonight to that. So if you look at your packet, in the left-hand side, you'll have the proposal, and then we tried to customize it to have your questions on there so you can cross-reference as we go back and forth with that. I'm going to introduce to you Omar, and he'll tell a little bit about himself, then get right to the presentation.
I have to tell you, when I grow up, I want to be just like these guys over here.
They're grown up.
Oh, well, not as grown up as you guys. Okay. So I am the current superintendent, proud superintendent of Keeneyville School District. This is my 11th year as superintendent, my 6th year at Keeneyville. This is, I don't have about 100 searches like Mark, but this is search
Your
number
numbers are growing.
10, yes.
Yes.
Search number 10 for me, and I'm very happy to be here in front of you. And I've come through the ranks just like these guys. I had the privilege to work in Addison School District with John. He's the one that discovered me and brought me to district office, so it's a pleasure to be here with you. As my colleague said, we're going to try to answer the questions that you had specifically, and I am told that I'm going to answer questions numbers 1 through 4. And I want to start just by saying, this whole process is a partnership. It's a partnership between us and you, because we have the same goal in mind. We want to find the best candidate here for your school district that, who we can bring to you that's tailored especially for you. And that's why the leadership profile is extremely important for us, as well as, it'll be important for you. Through this leadership profile, how do we develop it? Well, we develop it with the help of you as the board by having individual interviews with you, as well as with all the other stakeholders of our school community, as well as our larger community. So as part of the focus groups that we will help you develop of different stakeholders, we have our different teachers unions. We have community leaders. We have parents. Okay, we have especially important at the high school district is to have students and have those community forums with them and those groups with them. Actually, that's probably some of my favorite that I enjoy working with the students, because they'll tell you exactly how it is. They're not going to beat around the bush. They're going to say, here's the way it is. And then we also have the open meeting with community members. Okay, in a community like yours, with a large Spanish-speaking population, just like a community like mine, if it's the will of the board, just like it was the will of the board for my board, to have those community forums in Spanish and be given in Spanish, and I would be able to do that. And different from, there's a lot of people who speak Spanish, that are bilingual. I think sometimes the benefit is not only being bilingual, but being bicultural and being able to connect that way, because that's how you really, you really know the community. One thing's knowing the language, the other thing's knowing the culture and knowing, what their values are. And then, obviously, the leadership survey, which I know, we also do provide it, in Spanish, and because that will help, some people won't, some of the community members won't come to the forums or the meetings, but they will, answer the questions, online. So the survey is also extremely important to us. So as part of all those different pieces, we come up with the leadership profile that's going to be the driving force of us recruiting the candidates, because we want to make sure we recruit someone that, as I mentioned, a perfect fit for here. Okay, preparing those interview questions, because as I said, it's a partnership. So we're working with you, and we're not going to you're not going to hire us and we're going to say, oh, here's the people, you do whatever you think you need to do. No, we're going to guide you through the interview process. We're going to guide you through who do you select for those community forums, who do you select for your community groups, because all those pieces fit together to ensure that we have the right person coming up in front of you. Assessing the interview performance, and the final assessment of candidates, that's all our job. We're going to make sure that we get the best candidates to apply, make sure that we interview the candidates before they even come to you, and my colleagues will talk a little bit more about, how we narrow it down, how it comes, how we bring them to you. So, the assessment process when talking about the candidates and the position, that's a big part of our job. And as I mentioned, we'll make sure that, you have, we provide the professional development for you, as in to know, how to run an interview, the interview questions that are important for you to ask, how you make a decision collectively as a team. So all those things are things that we will do to guide you in this process. So it's that partnership that we want to build for you. So I won't take any more of your time, because my two colleagues also want to say a few words.
Thank you, Moses. Another question was posed is, where do you get the sources of candidates? And we do that through multiple ways. Number one, we do that through actual recruiting. We're out there networking directly, one-on-one, whether it be phone, whether it be through emails. We also go to a lot of association meetings, like the Superintendent's Association, for example, here in the county. And so we really interact with that is very important. We also do that, as I mentioned before, with the Midwestern group, since I'm the executive director for that. That gives us another link of all the Midwestern states along with that. We also, as we do the planning meeting, we'll be working with you to identify where are those sites that you think we should interview, whether it be with ALICE, the National NABC, some of those organizations. ASA is also an important one as well. We do not, I want to clarify, just sit back and wait for the candidates to come in. We're out there being proactive, reaching out there to really touch base to make sure we get the candidates that are going to fit here. We don't have just a group of candidates to say, here's what we're going to give to West Chicago. We really try to pinpoint that and customize that for your group with that. Another question you asked about, do you need a nationwide search? As some of you already know, since 2011, there's now a Tier 2 retirement system that is now taking the place of Tier 1 when those people retire. So we've seen the number of out-of-state candidates decreasing significantly. We will still do that, but we just wanted to tell you that that number is going to be somewhat less than before with that. We'll also will make sure if it is an out-of-state candidate that they have the proper certification right from the front. That's very important to do as well. Another question that was asked is, will we recommend candidates for multiple districts? We do not do that. Ethically, that's not the proper thing to do. We have a candidate, we recommend them here, they're going to be here. We're not going to put them in 2 or 3 other searches that we're doing. That's not in your best interest, and that's not in our best interest as well. Will there be a large group of school districts out there? As of last count, I think, Mark, we're at a little over a dozen now, aren't we?
A little more than a dozen, but the key to that is, if I can jump in real quick, is that there are multiple high school districts looking for superintendents at the same time. And we're not working with any of them. And that's critical, that's really important, because you can imagine if you're looking for a superintendent from a pool that's attracted to people with high school backgrounds or disposition to working in high schools, you want to be able to see everybody. But if you're looking at, if you're working with an organization and they are looking at 3 at the same time, I don't know what the process will be in order to ensure that you get to meet all the best candidates for your position. In other words, you want to be able to see the best people out there. And I think that's a critical piece in the end.
Another question you asked about was the cost with that, and we want to be very straightforward what that is. Our fee is $18,900. That includes a survey as well, both in English and in Spanish for that. We also have administrative costs of somewhere between $900 and $1,200. The consultant travel will be minimal because we live local here. That's not a big deal. And then, as Omar said, the marketing and advertising will work together and collaborate on which sites that you want to advertise that, and we can give you what the costs will do with that. And if you would like, we're more than happy to give a not-to-exceed figure if you'd like to go with that. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mark, and he's going to talk to you a little bit more. If you would look in your right side of your packet, you had a tentative timeline that we've put together is very specific. This is just a suggestion, but we wanted to give you just an idea of what it would look like with that.
We'll get to that, but we need to finish these questions.
Yeah, if we can wrap up the presentation part
I
so
knew,
that we can get to questions.
I kind of read your eyes. I knew you were ready to say that. Just a couple of things on these questions, and then we'll talk about the handouts. Question number 8, what sets us apart? And I think our track record since 2006, successful track record here, track record in the area. In the packet that you have, we have a listing of recent searches that we've placed superintendents. One isn't in the neighborhood. That's Avoca. But what we wanted to show you was that 7 out of the 12 placements were of candidates of diverse backgrounds. 7 of these 12 people, West Chicago Elementary, Benjamin, Bloomingdale, Keeneyville, Marquardt. We just placed Lucia Davia in Marquardt, right nearby. And we're very proud of being the search firm that was selected to lead the search for the CPS CEO, as they call him, Pedro Martinez, who seems to be weathering the political storm. So he's doing a good job. And various other people who are in this area. We wanted you to see we are not strangers to the area. So when we talk to candidates, we can extol the virtues of West Chicago High School and DuPage County. Some of the other things that we really needed to hit were, do you have a dedicated person? All 3 of us will be dedicated to responding to any of your needs. Fortunately, we were both very closely acquainted. All 3 of us are closely acquainted with your interim superintendents. The communication piece will be there. It won't interrupt your life. You have other things in your life besides everything, everyday school board. So we will assume those responsibilities. And will we be able to customize this? Yes. If there are things that you need, nothing is carved in stone. We'll work with you. We may suggest some things that are maybe a little unconventional. And we will say, hey, let's try this. This may work for you. And so, yes, we're open to that. We will work with your communications director. And as we look at the very last page of the questions, these are just some additional districts that we've worked with, especially districts with large Spanish-speaking populations. That seems to be a niche of ours. And we're very comfortable working in communities where the expectation is that the Board of Education at least has the opportunity to interview candidates who are Spanish-speaking. Kind of try to run through that. I know your timeline was short. Phil had alluded to in your packet was a sample timeline. In the proposal, we wrote that a couple of weeks ago. We updated the timeline so that you could kind of see week by week, month by month, when the starting point and when the end point is. We have you finishing somewhere December or January, depending upon how much the holiday season gets in the way, other things that interrupt the flow. So we feel very good about very much a great amount of time to give transition from the new superintendent and till the end of the year, until you throw these 2 gentlemen out the door and they go back to their retirement life. But this will give from January or February till June 30th for transition time, which is ample, which is great. You're in a really good timeline. So very quickly, what's left?
Okay, so going into some questions. How will you work with us to help keep our superintendent choice from landing us in the newspaper? Because that happens, I've seen it.
One of the things we didn't hit enough on, or I think we skipped over a little bit, is that we have a 2-year mentorship. We started this way back several years ago, where we assign 1 or multiple people from the team to be the mentor. Even if it's an experienced superintendent, they need to have a go-to person. Yes, there are people that are assigned by DuPage County or assigned by the State Superintendent's Association, but we have a tight relationship with all the candidates that we place. And so we would be there for that person.
I guess I was addressing it more in terms of vetting the candidates so that there's not something horrible that was posted on social media by their spouse 2 years ago, or that kind of thing.
I'll be happy to
We've
answer
got
that.
like 4 tiers to cover that.
Yeah, Mark, what we do in that case, and Bob, in that case, what we do is we, of course, do our own local checks of that person, not just looking at the reference list, but we're going to dig down much deeper than that. The second thing we do, we have another individual who goes through and checks all the social media, see what else articles that are out there, which are very important to do. The third thing we do, if the board would like to do this, is additional costs. We use an outside firm called Baker and Eubanks, and they do a deep, deep dive on the superintendent. As you know, in the state of Illinois, we don't do the criminal history check because that's done like you do with every employee, but we're very much attuned with that, Bob.
That's something that we also have one of our associates who lives in North Carolina who's an expert at deep Google searches. And for a very reasonable, like $300, she'll give you a 15-page, how many times they went to the bathroom that week, type of a Google search. Not that you want that, but a little levity doesn't hurt. So we do have that covered.
Other questions?
Any board member questions?
Answered mine.
I think you have actually covered all our questions, but thank you very much for your time.
We covered
very
them all?
welcome.
Oh, then
They're very thorough.
that's the first time.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you. Keep on these guys, make sure they're working hard.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. All right, at this point, we need a recommended motion to move into executive session for purposes of the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees, specific individuals who serve as independent contractors in a park, recreation, or educational setting.
So move.
Second.
Roll call, please. You do a roll call for us?
I can do that. Mr. Zuniga?
Aye.
Ms. Casey Mayer?
Aye.
Mr. Brown?
Aye.
Mr. Nagel?
Aye.
Ms. Munoz?
Aye.
And
Don't
two
forget
other-
Gary
Kathy
and
Gary.
Catherine.
Mr. Stocky?
Aye.
Ms. Doremus?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, why don't we take 5?
Kathy and Gary, I will call you shortly.
Okay.
Gonna
We're shutting down the stream. Thank you.
Bye.
They were earlier, like before our meeting, you know, where you go down.
Interesting that we've got BWP and IASB information, and not anything else.
We are good? Okay, at this point, we need a motion to adjourn.